Night has fallen and you're weary from travel. Stars fill the sky above, and in front of you is a brightly lit wooden house, the only building you've seen for days. You walk toward the house, hearing the sounds of laughter and talk as you reach the door and push it open. You sit down and join the game. It's a cheap buy-in, and not many of the other players are very good. The lady fiddling with dice gets good cards, but has no real strategy. The man to your right seems to just hold on to the highest cards he has, regardless of suit or any consideration of matches. The man in gray across from you, though, he's good. He already had the largest pile of coins when you bought in, and while your winnings grow quickly, you can't quite catch him. One by one, the other players leave the table, sometimes with pique or with wry humor, leaving their winnings with you or the man in gray. Finally, it's just you and the man in gray. He looks at you, full of humor, and winks. Last hand? He deals, you draw, and look at your hand. It's good. It's great. The best hand, in fact. A royal straight flush. Spades. Aces high. But the man in gray pushes forward his whole pile. You're not sure exactly how much it is, but it's more than you've got. You can't match that. The man in gray stops you. Now, if you like, I'll let you wager your word. I know you'll be good for it. Just promise you'll pay the debt, however I ask. The man in gray smiles. All right, then. I'll call.
Well, your luck wasn't so good, was it? That's quite the hand, but not for the game we're playing. I'm afraid you owe me. Your life, sure, but more than that, your labor. You see, this land is built on stories. It's one big story, this country, woven of many small ones. Few of the small ones are strictly true, and the big story is mostly a lie. All the stories and songs and myths and legends start somewhere, with a seed. As they're told and retold and passed around, they grow and change to become the stories we know. To pay your debt to me, you'll be carrying stories, finding the seeds first and then spreading them, telling them onwards so they can begin gaining strength. This is no light task. Stories are heavy. Most of the stories you'll find will be small seeds. They might be true, but they grow wild and unbelievable with the telling. The more important stories are the true ones, the ones people will tell you about their own lives. Those often get lost in the weaves of the big story. The more true stories you can find and tell, the more you can weave that truth into the big story. Tarnish it a bit perhaps, but isn't a dingy and battered truth better than a shining lie? Now, go ahead. You tell me a story. I'll trade you some information about your task. I'll strip away your flesh to make the journey easier, but still you'll feel pain. Hunger, weariness, thirst, and despair. They're all part of stories, the part not often told. And death, yes, but don't worry. As long as your task remains, you... It's just luck. Funny how bad luck seems to follow the folks who already have problems aplenty. Well, try your luck out there in this country. See how the dice treat you. It's not all bad. You'll have to work hard, but I'll give you the gift for seeing the true shapes of people. Not many who can do that. Your deepest desires, your greatest wish, heaven, Big Rock Candy Mountain, El Dorado, the Promised Land, that place just over the ridge where they all say that the water tastes just like the sweetest wine. Well, I don't know where that is. It's supposed to be somewhere in this country. Ask the people you meet. They're all searching for the same thing. You sometimes have to make choices about what kind of story you're finding. Is it a love story or a tragedy? Don't gather too many of one kind, though. This grand story needs variety. Travel? That's your job. Wander from place to place, gather those stories and spread them. People get bored hearing the same stories over and over, but an old cliché in one state might be a rip-roaring new yarn in another. Go on your way, seeker. Maybe we'll meet again, or maybe not. Either way, it'll be an experience for you. I'm jealous in some ways. I hope you find what you're looking for.
This bungalow is being ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard, ammunition heaped under the mailbox. The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch railing share the same bored grin. One shouts at you. "Lend a couple innocent gals a cigarette?" You are about to hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. "You know these girls?" they demand. Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless. "If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash," sneers one. On the porch behind him, the two bootleggers are fingering their empty rifles, grinning in disappointment.
Well, I'm gonna cast my stone for to take me hand in hand. This will be my tale, my vagrant song. This will be my tale, my vagrant song.
They don't come every year, you know. The old man is sitting at the edge of a rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the water. He watches a pair of seagulls preen and groom each other on a rock just off the shore. Just when the fishing is going to be good. He taps great, black, thick globs of spent tobacco out of a huge ceramic pipe. I got another year, I guess. Another year of this town being here, he replies, letting a grin spread across his face. If the seagulls came, that means enough fish to keep it in place. The woman walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis. You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house. Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coop? That's the spirit. You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner. Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work, doesn't live anywhere as far as I know. Just around. Myself, I'd love to know who made all her beautiful clothes. You ask the woman if you may join her at a public bench. You may. Lovely outside, isn't it? Her eyes are a beautiful shade of brown. Beneath the yellow ribbon, a thick, fibrous scar wraps around her throat. Weather like this, it reminds me of Paris. Storm clouds on the horizon, and you don't relish the thought of being caught wandering this rocky seaside road in the rain. Fortunately, you find the lighthouse door open, with a daunting staircase before you. At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level. Muffled voices and light seep in beneath the door. Looks like we got a visitor. Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough. Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door. Another man, this one with a higher, more sonorous voice. I always behave myself. He feigns indignation, but his tone betrays affection instead. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge hand. Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in. Despite the rough exterior, This room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trod wooden floor and an enormously plush couch. And sat upon it is a stocky fellow grinning through a great hazel-colored beard. "Tea?" he offers, hoisting a teapot.
A few years.
The tall one sits on the sofa, wrapping his arm casually around the other lighthouse keeper. "5, says the smaller, but by no means small, man.
That long? Time flies. We traveled together before that. You must have some good stories from the road, huh?
You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea. And cakes? There might have been little cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave. Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle. The shape gives a start.
Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here.
It says in a small voice.
Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore, but I want to go with him. Don't tell him, please. I'm hiding.
His father must have been here at some point, but you sure can't see him now.
Please go. He's coming back any minute,
says the boy, growing agitated.
He's going to see you talking to me. Please, go!
He only calms down when you leave. You don't see another soul for miles. You come across a girl picking wild blueberries. She smiles and greets you.
Anin.
She offers you some from her birch bark basket. You reach in the basket for blueberries, but pull out a handful of small, smooth stones, all the colors of the rainbow. The snickering girl runs into the trees as fast and light as a rabbit. When the stones reach the top of their arc above your head, they turn into butterflies, all the colors of the rainbow. Your heart leaps in surprise. Incredible. You hear the whippoorwill first, shrill and close. Then you see him, high up above the black streaks of wires. A lineman, fraying belt holding him to the pole. A damned bird has come to perch on a power line, stare hungrily at the man's soul. He's unsteady. His hands are shaky, and his body sways in the wind. You spot his tool bag next to the pole, worn and frayed, much like the man. A half-gone bottle of cheap rye pokes out of it. You leave the man to his work and his vices. The whippoorwill cheers you on. Whatever it's waiting for from the drunkard lineman, it'll eventually get. As you walk away, for a long time, you still hear its cry. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. Clouds roll together to fill the sky. The lightning is so strong that it seems to open a path in the haze above you. You are sure you see massive talons curved around the clouds. The thunder is so immense that the ground trembles. Your lips and hands tingle from the electric charge that fills the air, until the dancing lightning passes on over the hills. Against a fence and turns to face you as you pass him by. At his back is a bag full of birdseed. He assures you that the gawky birds perching on his body are the last remaining passenger pigeons.
They look extinct to you?
You're not sure those dull gray pigeons look anything like the pictures you've seen of passenger pigeons, though you can't help thinking they stare at you a little too intently.
Say, you like birds? They're lovely creatures. Guileless, really. Hunted damn near to extinction, weren't you?
He strokes one of his birds under the chin. You think you see drips of blood flecking the creature's dirty gray head. You sense it's about time you start moving on.
You be kind to the little birds now, you hear?
You hurry along the road, though the flapping of ungainly wings seems to follow you for hours.
Just a moment there,
he says, shaking your hand.
I'm Paul Dalhart from the Republican Herald. You may have heard of it. Syndicated in 6 counties. Well, no matter. But listen, you may have noticed a vocal few out there, I call them naysayers, who throw up their hands and fly the white flag as soon as life gets a little tough. But wouldn't you agree that it's never been a better time to live and do business in this country? Ha! Pessimism, negativity, faint-heartedness.
He claps his notebook shut.
If there is to be an end to the great American experiment, it'll be your attitude that writes it, not mine.
Why, hello there. Look like that's a heavy bag you're carrying. Let me get that for you. I insist. You see this uniform? It means you can trust me to make sure this is the most comfortable journey you've ever had in your life. Who am I? Well, I'm no George, I'll tell you that. But that's not important. This trip is about you, friend. Tell me something that'll make me laugh. I could use a chuckle. I suppose that's someone's idea of hope. The past, that's a tricky thing. Yes, porters may remind you of a certain type of way folks of our type used to be. There's no fighting that, just happily working past it. Anyway, I'm in the mood for a good, happy story. You got me? So, does that one scare you? Not sure about me. Love? I try my hardest to put all my heart into my service. But truth be told, I've never seen anything more touching on a Pullman train than a maid who knows how to treat a little baby just right. Have any optimistic tales? I'd like to hear one of those. Who finds that one funny? When it comes to the job, the right and wrong choices are pretty simple. When a passenger pays good money for a trip, it's only natural they expect a good trip in return. So a porter will treat you right because it's the right thing to do. You seem like you've seen a few spooky things in your time. Want to share it? Well, if that one makes you happy, I suppose it's worth telling. The future? We're making it. There's never been anyone like us Pullman porters. It's why we have so much pride. We're setting standards for future folks, and we know just how damn high those standards are. Have any optimistic tales? I'd like to hear one of those. That one will probably ruin the mood if I share it in our quarters. The sadness. No sadness here. When you ride on one of Mr. George Pullman's sleeping cars, you leave your sadness behind. I can personally assure you of that. Another night over, and I have places to be. Next, I'm headed down the rails this way. A porter's life is one of constant movement. I hope your trip is smooth and enjoyable. Have you considered traveling by train? Perhaps we'll meet again on a train or at one of my stops. There's still more I could share with you about the porter's life.
Can you find her? His voice is soft, cooing. He's lowered himself down so that his head is level with the two blonde-topped boys next to him. Can you find Grandma? They're pulling ears of corn off stalks with uncommon gentleness. There she is. He points to a specific cob. It's enormous, but otherwise unexceptional. We gave her back to the corn, and now the corn has given her back to us. One of the boys, awed, reaches out with a reverent hand to touch the cob. This one's not for eating, the man continues. No, this one we keep. Come on, boys. We better get home before dinner time. Harvest starts tomorrow. He turns to lead his children back towards where you're standing. He seems beatifically distracted as he gingerly carries the pristine ear of corn in one hand, never noticing you. His children tail after him. One of them, his blonde mop of hair mirroring the bright yellow maze, seems to glance at you, but not really understand what he sees. And there it is, subtle but perceptible. A patch of red spots on his face, fuzzy and fungal, like the omnipresent rust that you've seen on leaves here and there in every cornfield. Except this one, of course.